phone, for some reason it turned on.
Yeah, mine.
Okay, let's call to order at 6:34. Let's do the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, starting with Joe.
Sue Condon.
Robert Carn. Vinnie Cannadella.
Debbie Sherman.
Mike Russo. Steve Kozer.
Are there any amendments to the agenda? Anybody? No? Okay. The September 24th regular Board of Education minutes for approval.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 9/24/24 Board of Ed meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. October 1st, Special Board of Education minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 10/1/24 Board of Ed special meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Audience of citizens, anyone like to speak? No? Okay. Board correspondence?
Nothing.
Nothing. Assessment report and curriculum instruction and assessment goals 24-25.
So I just want to start with kind of just going over some background info, some changes from last year. And just kind of go over some data that's not in here, just not available at this time. So some of the major changes, which are also in here, but the iReady data is put in the report. But if you remember, we are not doing that anymore. So this is obviously the last year's data. If you remember from last year, even the iReady data, we were only doing it. Most of it was done at the middle school, and then we did math only at the K-5 level because they've been doing curriculum changes. So just want to point that out. It's also the first year of the digital SAT, where all students were taking that and still kind of waiting for reviews and research and all that to come out and how that affected scores. We obviously know how it affected scores versus previous test administration, and then we'll still kind of look into how the digital compares to past as well. At this point, because school started late, we did extend the fall benchmark window. So those assessments that we do in the beginning of the year to kind of see where kids are at in order for teachers to set groups and form instruction. So that is actually the fall benchmark window, which includes the IXL assessment and DIBELS, which is the major K-5 literacy assessment we do, which is that is one of the state required assessments that we do. That will be done on Friday. So the benchmark window closes on Friday. So the majority of students are done, but it's a lot to catch up, any students who have been out, that sort of thing. So that information is not in here, as well as there's some state performance index data that is not in here as well. Last year, I looked at the report. I did it in November last year, and it was available at that time. So I'm expecting the performance index data to be available at any time. And I think we did something similar last year, in that we looked at some of the data earlier in the year and then came back in November when I did that full report to kind of update and put some more information together. So just want to be on the same page. So the majority of this data is a lot of the SBAC data, as well as the SAT information, as well as a few others, but the SBAC and the SAT is the majority of this information. I think overall, when you look at a kind of bird's eye view, obviously there's some good data points in there that we really like seeing, and then others that we need to kind of dig a little deeper and have some more work on, which we'll see when we get to my curriculum instruction goals. I think what we saw at the middle school, both in ELA and math, when you look at it, 6th through 8th grade altogether, we saw some big improvement in year over year, where both ELA and math went up 10%. We're looking at 6th through 8th grade data. So obviously some good work going on at the middle school, some things to praise there. We also, I don't have it in here at this time, we also started looking at kind of that cohort data. So last year's 6th through 8th group to this year's 6th through 8th group, obviously went up 10%. Right, when you start to break it down and look at the grade levels by cohort, meaning the 5th year from last year to the current 6th year, and then going back years, that data is a little more up and down, which we need to dig a little further into. Sometimes cohort data, when you look from kindergarten to, you know, if you have that data from kindergarten to the time they graduate, sometimes you get to see trends, which we can start to look at. A lot of trend data you may see is those transition years from, let's say, 5th to 6th grade, 8th to 9th grade. We usually see dips, which we'll talk about some things that we're doing, but the cohort data is a little up and down. There's some grades where from the previous year to this year, or this year's data went up 10-11%, which is a huge jump on an assessment like SBAC. And then there's a couple that went down a couple percent. So again, it's more information. We got to look at some of the data, you know. It's hard to look at just the 1 year and say, you know, what happened. So for example, 6th grade ELA dropped 14% from the 5th grade. So when you look at the percentage of kids or students who are at or above benchmark, 6th grade ELA SBAC, they dropped 14% from 5th grade. But if you take the number, it's the highest 6th grade percentage of at or above since our COVID years. So we are making some good gains. And what I try to tell some people is growth is not always linear. We're not always going to be able to just every single year that we increase. We are seeing some good gains in some areas, and we're also implementing a ton of new programs across the district, especially in ELA, which sometimes creates a bump in, you know, when you have those first year or two with the implementation.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question now, or you want me to wait?
Go ahead.
So would you be able to, when you do the cohort data, be able to identify when new programs went in?
Yes.
So it might help us understand that the new reading program's working better now versus, and the math programs as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So it just might help us find what programs we've put in that are working and what aren't working.
Mhm.
Tutors and stuff, things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's also, you know, it is a little more than a new program at times. You know, it's rare that we're able to take a program and just say, here it is, run it exactly like it is. A
Right.
lot of times it's, here's what we have. And we have to manipulate or revise to meet the needs of our kids. And,
Yeah.
you know, not every program, every aspect of it is always the most effective. So each program has things that are better than others. When you do pilots, you know, rarely is it, hey, this program you choose is better at every single aspect than this program. If that was the case, then everyone would choose that one program, right? So you make your decision. So as a school, we have to look at those programs and make decisions as to what are the areas that we see as maybe weaker and what can we do in response to that. So for example, with the HMH ELA that we have, like that's what we're going through right now. It's a massive program. It's not meant to be, here's day 1, lesson 1, day 2, lesson 2, go run it. There's a lot of decisions for teachers to make.
Sure.
You know, and I am extremely happy that with last year's budget, we're able to add the literacy coach who's been doing some amazing work, helping us kind of catch up in that area with resource creation and working with teachers on making a lot of those decisions. It's going a lot faster than if we did not have that person, as an example. So again, some good information on SBAC, especially at the middle school level, which has seen kind of some low declining scores since COVID. We did see a lot of uptick, which is something to celebrate. SAT data, when you're looking at the reading, writing, ELA, literacy side of things, I would say that's somewhat flat. When you're looking even going from 9 to 10 to 11, which kind of mimics the state national scores. The ELA tends to be higher than math, and it tends to be a little more flat, whereas the math tends to be a little more volatile year to year. So the math side of things, we definitely, along with the state and the country, you know, there's a lot of work going into grants and so forth to try to figure out these math scores. While overall they are low, some good things we did see, while the overall SAT percentage of students at or above benchmark dropped, from, the previous year to last year. From the PSAT, the group that took the PSAT 10 to the group that took the SAT last year, we did have 5% more of those students in the at or above benchmark. Which on a test that large, 5% is a decent jump. So we're looking at increasing, obviously, keep increasing those math scores, and trying to go, and try to do as much as we can there. And we have the math tutoring grant in the second year at the middle school. We have curriculum writing going on at the middle school in math, which I think will help support, the programming that's going there. And this year, we'll get into it, one of our major goals is I'll be working with the department heads, the department head at the high school in math. To kind of do an audit of the courses and take a look at the SAT scores. What areas do we seem weak? Match those up with kind of what we see with IXL. What do our course offerings look like? Are we doing things in the right sequencing? Do we need to add any other courses? Are we offering what we need to offer when they need to be offered? The other thing with the SAT, that we need to do a little more work on, and I'm thinking about working with, again, that math department head and maybe surveying students, is the past couple of years, that motivation factor. You had a lot of schools drop the SAT requirement. Some schools are bringing it back. There's still a bunch of schools that are not. There's a couple of schools that say they're dropping in 3 years from now and kind of have a set date, so there's also that motivation piece. Students not going to college, or their college that they want to go to does not take the SAT. I think we need a little more information on the student side of things as to how they view and what their motivations are with the SATs. But I think looking at that this year, trying to get that information may help as well. And I'm not saying that's the only cause. I just think that's something to look at and bring that piece into the equation too.
Now, SATs are going electronic,
This was the past spring was the first year they're all digital.
because I understood
Last-
that was good for some and bad for others.
Yeah, and it's a couple of the other changes, they shortened the reading passages. It was supposed to also mimic some of the stuff we're seeing with the iReady you've seen in the past year, the IXL, where it's supposed to change questions based on the student responses and so forth. So there's that aspect of it going into. So like I said, the first year, I'd imagine in a couple of years, there's probably going to be some pretty big research out there as to the effect of going digital. But last spring was the first time that I think they said 99% of the country, the students who took the SAT in the spring took it digitally.
Because I also thought with the reading and stuff is comprehension
Yes.
and things, and that everything I read in the outside world is that comprehension is missing at high school and college.
Mhm.
So I would think that those would be the things we're looking at. And I would almost assume that SATs are gonna be across the board.
Yeah.
And the big ones go that way, everybody's gotta go that way. So
Mhm.
I think as part of our underlying plan is SATs, are that's the game.
Yeah, and then, it's definitely had the pendulum swing very far one way over the past year or two, and now it's starting to come back, and we'll see where, we'll have to see where it settles in the next year or two.
Anybody else?
I'd agree on the SATs. Both of my boys that were seniors last year, they took it once. And they didn't take it again because the schools they wanted to go to didn't care.
Yeah.
And so you typically score higher, and depending on when you get algebra,
Mhm.
makes a huge difference of when you get a good score, because you need that. Base of get algebra 1, algebra 2, geometry, and if you don't get that until the end of junior year, you don't take it senior year. You're at a disadvantage compared to other students.
Yeah. So we give it, obviously, the state of Connecticut, every student in public school takes it that junior year, in the spring, and then anything beyond that is up to the student, paying for that. But you're right, that traditionally it was you took it 2, 3, 4 times. And, yes, if the school you want to go to doesn't require it, then what's the motivation to take it multiple times or see how you did and take it again?
On a little bit also, are we gonna have because I got a couple texts and stuff, print our curriculum?
Yeah, so we talked about that at the subcommittee meeting. I'm working with IT. We're gonna be using a new site to house it. So we have a couple up there now, and I say with it, I talked to him, maybe within the next couple of weeks, month, we should have it online on the website, ready to go with everything we have available.
Just the bookshelf.
Say,
Yeah.
say 6
Yeah.
weeks. I don't want to.
We should, yes.
I want to under promise.
Yeah, there's some web design slash coding training I'm going through now, to make sure it's all up there.
Because I explained to them, we're in the meat of it.
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of curriculum work being done, which I'll talk about when we do the instructional goals and sort of in that little bit.
Thank you.
Do you wanna talk about tomorrow, what you're doing tomorrow? Do you wanna do that now, or you wanna do that later on? With the, just let the board know what. is
Oh. Yeah, tomorrow, so I reached out, I was on, Indeed, kind of looking at local jobs, who's hiring. And noticed, the state's obviously always been talking about advanced manufacturing and we don't have people for those jobs, so Oxford, being as small as it is, interestingly, has multiple advanced manufacturing corporations. So it's on Indeed, a couple of them. We're posting jobs where it's a high school experience, didn't talk about college experience. So I just reached out via their email contact to a number of places and just said, hey, would love to talk and, you know, how can we better leverage our students to be in a position to maybe get some of those jobs? And personally, like I've heard all the advanced manufacturing, we need these jobs, we need people trained. I kind of want to go see what happens in these corporations. So I know obviously we hear about robots and machines taking over, and yes, that's what the factories are, but I kind of want to see for myself what are the workers being asked to do, and what can we do to maybe bring those skills into the school to help give them a leg up? Because some of these jobs, the place I'm going to tomorrow online says they offer 401k health, but full health benefits. So I mean, there's some good stuff there.
And if we're not.
Right in town.
Right,
And if we're not college required.
and if we're not doing great.
Not for everything.
For some of the stuff.
And in some cases, we can't, because we don't have the facilities in the schools to create and mirror what they have in the industry. What can we do to bring our students there, either for small experiences or for larger internships?
So we'll see where it goes.
Partnerships.
The state also has certain restrictions on work-based learning and internships, so. I mean, I still have to talk to the factory president, figure out their side of things and what they're willing to do and want to do and what we can do, and then work within the state regulations too. It's not as easy as, hey, yes, I'm down, and we can just say, go ahead, see you later.
The visit of the.
There's hoops, yeah, there's hoops. So it's a visit just to kind of get the conversation going and seeing what we can do to help our kids out who aren't going to college.
And Dave, Becca and Vic are gonna go with you. Are you gonna be able to go?
And
tomorrow?
Rick. Or, no, Dave,
No,
so we
Dave.
have, two teachers at the high school who do.
I got an interview for a job.
Are you?
We'll leave Vic there.
I got
We'll leave Vic there.
Yeah,
This was your idea?
I'll be making chips.
Yeah, I just happened to see it online, like. I mean, like I said, I've been hearing about the manufacturing stuff all the time, and I just went on Indeed to see who's hiring or not.
No, I like the initiative.
Yeah, to see what's
Just
going on,
well
so
done.
we'll see, like I said, we'll see what comes of it. I'm not making any promises, because we gotta see what, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't been there yet.
The other thing with math, I was over at,
Mhm.
Nonwalk, and, they had a big car show, that's what I was there. And, the thing is that it's a tractor car show.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of kids there riding big humongous tractors, so I got a chance to talk to them. And the reason I bring this up is because it's math related. So when you're talking to them, you're talking gear ratios,
Mhm.
you know. Because we have this problem with math. These are sophomores and juniors and seniors. And they're talking about, well, they can, you know, change the gear ratio on this to do this, and I gotta do that. I got the hydraulic pressure here. So, and many of them were Oxford, because I knew their parents from the cars. And, so they're learning hydraulics,
Mhm.
pressure, gear ratios, and math through functioning things. And it's always been a key thing for math, is hands-on.
Mhm.
So, and I know it's a different, little bit different type of school, but the process is something that, again, we should look at, because these guys knew all about, you know, I gotta reduce the gears, gotta do this. And, some of the things on here, coming out of they hire college students and they have no clue. They know the math, but they don't know what it does. So I think as we go there, we'll talk further about, because I think that's the meat you need for math.
And you wanna do your draft, your,
The goals.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the goals, did a little different than last year. I think you'll see this with almost everyone now is using Dr. Miller's, those district goals that were created.
Mhm.
And kind of basing goals, what of my work aligns to those district goals, as well as at the end, I put in some, data specific pieces, assessment specific pieces. So the first one, every year I'm gonna be working on curriculum. Kind of the big projects right now are going to be, the OHS, OMS, world languages. We're gonna kind of take a look at that curriculum and we're looking to rewrite every single course, that we offer for world languages, from the middle school to the high school. We also have, 6-8, the middle school, art and general music. We kind of started this at the end of last year with kind of scope and sequence, and kind of doing kind of that outline type, for the class, and then this year we'll work on writing the specific curriculum. And then we have a new library media specialist at the middle school. There's a lot of changes going on with kind of library media, digital citizenship, all that stuff. So she has some great ideas and experiences. I'm doing some PD with her this year. So we're looking at kind of rewriting that curriculum as well for those students. And then K-5, math, scope and sequence, resources, as well as, I don't know if I put it in here. Right, I forgot to put it in there, but K-5 also, the work I'll be doing with the literacy coach, creating resources with her for the HMH program. So that's a lot of the curriculum work now. What I found last year is that's now, and usually things grow throughout the year. I know we have a couple of course proposals sitting in the hopper over at the high school that I have to review, bring to the subcommittee. So we may have a few other courses added to this as well. Another one of my goals aligned to the district goal is just that idea of improving teacher proficiency and confidence in HMH. So working with the literacy coach and making sure that's done. Last year was definitely a learning year for teachers with the program. This is the size and scope of it. So this year, you know, hopefully we need to increase that their confidence in the ability to implement it. That comes through PD they're gonna get, that comes through resource creation they're gonna get. The nice thing about having the literacy coach in district is that we're able to provide timely and frequent professional development. So yes, we'll still have outside groups come in to provide PD for teachers, but usually that happens a couple times a year. It's difficult to get coverage for all the teachers on a day. One day while outside providers are in the building. The nice thing about having the literacy coach, that's our district employee, is she's able to provide that PD on a smaller setting with the teacher one-on-one or in small groups where we don't have to go try to find 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 subs in a day in order to get it. So she's already been providing professional development for teachers. That's going to be ongoing, and they're going to get more this year than ever before without having this position. So I'll be working with her with that piece. The department heads, the fact that we kind of went back to the department head for each major subject at the high school. I'll be working with them to provide quality feedback to teachers within their department. So I'll be doing training this year on, you know, you're in a teacher's classroom, they ask you for advice. So they're very strong in their content area. So working with them in that instructional feedback area, how the evaluation system works, so that they can work with their teachers, which would be outside of their evaluator. So their evaluator gives them feedback. You know, this is someone else who can help go in and provide that feedback to them. And then another piece related to this district goal is the K-5 report card. So with the switch from our previous literacy program to HMH, we made some revisions last year that were needed to fit what we were doing, some of the changes. But we knew that would kind of be like a Band-Aid as we got used to it. So we're looking at kind of redoing the entire report card for next year, now that we're in year 2 of this. So the report card is going to be the same as last year. And then next year, we're looking to implement a new report card based off of everything we've learned with the new program and making sure everything aligns.
So Eric, can you say like new report card, when the parents get, it's gonna have the different categories, comprehension, all.
Yeah, we're gonna look at,
How that looks.
so the committee, I don't know yet. So the committee's gonna look at a number of different templates. Where I have an idea to kind of put a survey out to parents as to like, what are the pieces they always look at or wanna know. To make sure we get feedback from the parent side too. So based on teacher input, parent feedback, and just templates that we'll research, it'll be based off of that. So I think it's just a little too early to say, here's exactly what's gonna be in there.
Right.
Obviously, the standards and so forth,
That's what I was
but
getting
there's
at.
also so many that I know as a parent, like, you know, a 2-page report card sometimes gets a little overwhelming.
Right.
And they like skipping straight to the comments anyway sometimes. So like, what can we put in there that's like the most important that
Right.
they need to know? That will also inform the next year's teacher if they took a look in the file and so forth.
And that's because of the change in the,
The majority of it is because, yes, the change in how we do literacy was massive from a couple years ago to
Right.
what we're doing now. So like I said, we made some changes just to, because if you kept it the old way from a couple years ago, the teachers teaching what we were teaching last year, like they're just didn't fit.
Right.
So we made some changes to some
Mhm.
small revisions to make it kind of fit. And now next year we gotta make sure we, you know, whatever we're using is gonna be what we're using moving forward.
so it became like a round hole square peg thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
The next goal, the district goal on, successful integration, development of staff members. So my piece of that is always deals with team. So this is nothing new. I just always make sure all new teachers who need to go through the team process, have a mentor and are successfully going through that. So that's gonna be something I do every year. That does not change.
Eric, is that new teachers to the school or is that just new teachers out of school?
New teachers to teaching.
Okay.
So it could be someone come from another district who's only a year in, we need to do team, it's like a 2-year process.
It's a state requirement.
The next district goal, focuses on AI, which is a, important topic, especially in high school and even 6-12 now. So kind of goal to build the capacity of district staff. We did talk about this last year with staff. I ran a couple PD sessions. We have been working with someone at Advance. We did some work with some admin over the summer. And did professional development for school principals and central office staff. Myself and 4 other staff members, 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle school, are gonna be doing a micro credential course, kind of a self-paced 6-week AI course focused on using AI in education, the benefits of it and also those dangers. So that's gonna be kind of the district committee nucleus is myself and those people who go through that 6-week training. So that way we can kind of create, like we do have to have some sort of policy. We did in the handbook, put in, like we did add that, you know, the use of a student taking a prompt, put into ChatGPT, copying and pasting that, using that is the same as going to Google and doing the same thing. That's not your work. But we know we need more than that. So we're getting more knowledge this year so we can create policy, resources for parents, resources for students, and be more clear with how to utilize AI. So that's gonna be a goal this year. And then I have to add more to the next section. This is just some quick, goals based on actual just assessment data. So we have room to keep going up in ELA map, ELA and map and SBAC. So listen, some years you do this long enough and there's enough increase, you know, if we're sitting here at 80-85% at or above average, like can't just keep doing goals. Well, we're gonna keep going 2-3% every single year. But we're at a point where we can keep increasing every single year. So, I'll be looking to increase the overall percentage of students at or above benchmark for ELA and math on SBAC as well as the PSAT, SAT. When we get the IXL and the DIBELS data after this benchmark, I can update the board with specific goals tied to that.
So when you say goals will increase at ELA, SBAC scores by 2% to equal scores, so it's like 2% higher in those are above or at?
I try, yeah, at or above benchmark.
Okay, so we might move like from 58 to 60.
Yeah, so I was trying to find like, instead of just saying like, well, 3% across the board, I did try to go back and look at where were we like pre-COVID? Whether can we match, get to that point of like, hey, we're back to where we were, now we can go up from here. sometimes I found a round number, sometimes I looked at the math for, hey, what happened the past couple of years of math versus ELA, which tends to be a smaller increase than ELA. That's how I kind of came up with the numbers. And then, like I said, IXL and DIBELS will have to be added, like I said, the benchmark closes on Friday. So I'll have that for November.
Anybody have any other questions? No, I'm good. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Eric. This is great.
So, I'll just pass these around. These are the curriculums that we were given at the subcommittee, just so you guys can see what we're getting. So, just the different grades, different levels, different programs. So you can just see that we're following the template that we put together, so, so you have it to look at. Send them back my way when you guys are done. We're just different. We've got the. Yeah.
They're all different.
Well,
We have more?
yeah. Something.
Jump in. Yes. I'll refresh my.
We gotta.
I just wanted you to see what templates look like and what we're actually putting in there. So I thought it was very helpful.
Okay, it's a big place.
You guys want to? Okay. I've seen them. It's just something that, you know, this is how it's actually being written and how much we've gotten accomplished, so. We were happy.
Oh, this is curriculum for health education?
Yep.
So this is the way it was supposed to be, all?
Yes.
That one for health is draft.
Yeah, right, that one's wrong. Sorry.
So you'll get that one, that'll
That
come
has
to
to be
the full
approved by the
board
board first.
next month. That one's
Yeah, it's
drafted.
just a draft. On the
Still
front,
needs to be completed.
it says draft, I think I read it.
Eric, do you sleep?
Yeah,
This
the
is
team,
all
listen, the teachers have
Teachers
been,
did these.
yeah,
Oh,
the
wow.
teachers
Okay.
do a lot of the writing. I do the training and work with them throughout, do a lot of the formatting and revising with them, but the teachers that have written have done a tremendous amount of work as well, so.
And I think the teachers need to be recognized for stepping up, volunteering. Obviously, they're getting paid to do the
Mhm.
work, but they've stepped forward and said, I want to do the work. And they're doing it high level and they're very interested and we're very appreciative that the teachers want to participate in this. They've done a lot of hard work, a lot of good work behind this.
So is there a way we can reward them besides?
We can figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, this is major work.
Yeah, and this is the first time we've actually had it in a set pattern and everybody's following the same, and we actually have it for the first time in a long time, so I think it's a huge accomplishment.
But the reward is the satisfaction of having an energetic class and understanding students.
Absolutely.
So, maybe who could ask for more?
Do we have enough interest, like with the pipeline we need to do and deliver curriculum, do we have enough resources? We continue to momentum, or we kind of.
I mean,
Not fast enough right
The
now.
biggest resource is time, people, and time is. You know, it's limited, when you look at, you know, how much like teachers do throughout the day, the amount of meetings we have. Almost all the curriculum that is written is done outside the school day,
Right.
so I do the training during the school day. Meet with them during the school day, and they do the writing outside of the school day. You know, so, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's gonna take a few years to get a lot more done, like, that's a lot of work, and that was a lot of what you're looking at is the high school English. I mean, if you go look at the program of studies, and I'm not saying every single curriculum needs to be rewritten, but every year there's gonna be more and more coming out, but I don't like. I don't know, I also don't see this as like, you're ever like,
To be honest.
hey, we're done, we're not writing curriculum again, see you later, because then there's the revisions and like, this is only as good as the implementation, right? So like, that curriculum you're looking at for English is only as good as the teachers having time to sit down after unit one and be like, hey, this is what we said we were gonna do, how did it go? Like, let's take a look at student work, is this
Goes back.
what we're expecting out of it? Hey, the data we got from this this unit test and the SAT is saying we're weak here, where can we input that into our curriculum? So it's really work that never ends. And it all just comes down to time.
But you have the ability, like, once, I mean, it's rinse and repeat it. even when you have it, right, you continually go through it, but the implementation and the reflection part is where you form the structure for them, right? So
Yeah, 100%.
but get it in the fabric, right?
Yes.
Anybody have anything to, for Eric, to go on special ed? Okay. Special education report and special education assistant superintendent. report.
So I changed the report a little bit. I don't know, most of you probably have noticed because I'm trying to incorporate the role as director as well as the role as assistant superintendent and make sure that, you know, you see all the work that I'm doing. But also make sure that we're paying that really close attention to special education. So I have a brief report of just kind of the status of special education and what we're working on, and then the alignment to the goals. I do want to caution you on looking at the data. I will send out in the Friday update the actual data. So when I did this report last week, we closed on October 1 as our kind of date for our numbers. We had a couple rollover issues with like PSIS and Power School, so some of the grades weren't incorrect, so then it fed to CT SEDS incorrectly. And then any new student that came from out of state, we've had a couple, they have to be manually entered by the state before we can access them on CT SEDS. So there's a couple of things that 3-day time window didn't allow me to get the most accurate, counts. So I will get that to you on Friday because I have a much better look at it at the beginning of this week. So I will get that to you. In terms of special education, one of the great highlights that, you know, I want to speak to is that we did do and have a state approved collaborative between Oxford and Monroe. So we are working every single day together, those two programs. It's really now one program. So we have a lot more students in there. There's definitely more support staff, but we now have both Oxford, Southbury, Monroe, Newtown as job opportunities and more connections. So it's been really great so far. I mean, we've had some bumps because obviously the route to Monroe got a little washed out, but we are, you know, they've made it there, and we're sharing both spaces at this point. So days that we have jobs in Oxford, they're going to start the morning here in Oxford, and times that we're in Monroe. We also had a transition grant through the state of Connecticut. So one of the things that we did purchase through that was some vocational materials for them to use, as well as gym memberships. So that's something that they'll be practicing, utilizing, going to the gym, kind of making a schedule, things like that. Elementary and secondary specialized program update. The only major change to that is we did make an adjustment in hours, which was approved by the state of Connecticut. And what this does, it allows us to have the day where the teacher and the support staff are with the students all day long and that they're not pulled out for their prep. So we kind of put the prep at the beginning or the end of the day. So when the students leave or they come in a little bit later at the middle school program, the paras and the teachers have that time uninterrupted to be able to prep, because with a specialized program, there's a lot more prep involved. You know, making sure the communication devices are working, making sure they have the correct visual cues, making sure vocational things are set up. So they have that uninterrupted time together to plan and also do some PD together. So that was the major change, but it's been working out really well. And both of the teams have been able to collaborate. We've also continued the DTT training, the developmental therapy training with CES. So they're getting really great feedback now that we've implemented it for 1 year. They're doing the assessment and they're getting feedback from professionals who I've been fortunate to work with in the past, but know the program, are the only 2 certified in the state of Connecticut to do it, and come and give them feedback based on what's happening in the classroom, and then coming back to make sure that they're implementing the changes. So it's been a really great model and there's been a lot of change. But it's been really beneficial to all the students. Our numbers are also increasing too. So those programs have more students than they have in the past 2 years. Enhanced behavioral supports and services. We in the special ed department can't thank you enough for, stating that we needed some more support in behavioral and passing it through the budget. So the way that we utilize those funds, we did a little different than just having a full-time BCBA. We have a part-time BCBA who works 3 times a week, primarily at Quaker, but there's some other schools that they're consulting with. And then we also hired a behavioral technician that's going to work directly with those BCBAs to be in the classrooms, to model the plans, to check fidelity, to, make sure that the teachers have what they need so that they can implement the plans effectively. So it's been a really great model that's been working well. I'll have more information soon because obviously we contract the BCBA like any other position, it's hard to find, so the new one just started today and did consult last week. But I can't thank you guys enough, so I appreciate it. Bounce Back in CBITS is a trauma-informed or kind of school stressor program that we talked about last year implementing. We're gonna take it step by step. We're gonna be, slow in the process of implementation, so our staff, just were trained in the past 2 weeks. We're gonna start creating that referral process. We're gonna have very small groups to start out the first year to make people comfortable, make sure we have the process. There is a parental permission piece of it. But that's to help provide coping strategies dealing with stress and trauma that students have experienced, which really will help a lot of our students that are struggling with some major behaviors. And then the last major initiative for this year, although we have always a lot going on, as you noticed, I haven't mentioned CT SEDS, but we are in year 3. We're working through a couple implementation things, but I would say other than when things pop up from the state, we're getting through it. It's much better than the last 2 years. But the last thing that we are training the whole staff on, probably on our March PD day, Woodcock Johnson, which is an assessment that we have for both cognitive and academic testing, is coming out with version 5, but they are completely changing the way the assessment is delivered, and it's going to be utilizing iPads and computers now. So it's going to be a lot of training that we're going to have to provide our staff to make sure that we're doing evaluations correctly, just because the format is going to be completely different than, we've been using this test for many, many years. The delivery is going to be much different this year. I'm actually very excited about it. And then in terms of the goals, I did the same thing that Eric did, trying to encapsulate everything that I'm doing in relation to the goals for the district. And it gets a little tricky, so I'm happy, if there's any feedback or things you'd like to see, I'm happy to make any changes to that. What I did here, and I don't know if you see the highlighted colors, but I aligned some of the goals. Obviously, everything we do in special education and then everything in my position as the assistant superintendent supports all of the goals. So we're trying to find the best way to kind of align that. So I highlighted times where it's related to special education and times where it's related to assistant superintendent and sometimes where it's both. So for the overall district goal, this would, for engagement and students instruction, in special education, we kind of hit upon all of these because we're trying to build those building blocks of skills so that they can, have a grade level curriculum or have it with modification or accommodations. One of the big things for CT SEDS is beginning January of 2025, it will be a requirement that all goals and objectives for academics will be aligned to Common Core state standards. They already are, but now the requirement is we cannot finalize an IEP until we choose what that anchor standard is. So we do have some training that we're going to be doing to get staff ready, to understand what they mean by the anchor standard and how they're attaching it to the goal. Because it's not the overall, like every single objective of Common Core, it's the anchor that kind of attaches it to it. And knowing that some of our students work below grade level, what does that look like when we're attaching it? So by the end of the year, any IEP that's developed from 2025 on will be aligned to Common Core state standards. So we're going to start doing that work with them now. The state has produced some good resources. It's some work I've done in the past. So Linda and I are going to be working in the next couple of months.
What is that? So even though people have IEP and it might be modification of curriculum, less work, more time, don't they ultimately align to some sort of standard?
Yes.
Ultimately, maybe a partial piece of it?
Yes. So that's what we have to then identify. We already do, but this is making us identify and attach it to. So, right, they may be working at a different grade level, but it is in alignment to a standard or an area.
So this is more like memorialization or just formally connecting it,
Correct.
more or less?
Yeah, the IEP program won't allow us to finalize unless it's attached to it.
Okay.
It's gone different ways. I remember like probably 10, 15 years ago, we used to have to write the goal, the objective and goal and attach the full standard like ourselves. This is kind of changing it slightly different.
Okay.
And then the next goal for vision, mission and framework for the athletic program. I'm going to make sure, obviously meet with the athletic director, but I want to make sure that our vision is aligned with the unified piece of it, of the alignment to special education. Obviously, it would help in the other pieces of it as well, but making sure that our vision and mission also is inclusive to the unified sports. in terms of the coordinator of student conduct, the way it kind of flows is the Dave Becca reports to the principals daily and works with them daily, but it kind of filters to me as the overall, overseeing what they're doing. So yesterday we had our first monthly meeting. We're gonna co-evaluate depending on which area he's choosing to work in, either focusing on middle school or high school. And we're just hoping, so my goals, I didn't put achievable metrics, but when Heather and Sylvia present, I'm gonna align because that work is going to be the same work we're gonna be doing together. So really kind of overseeing that, making sure I'm a point person for both of them, making sure I'm checking in with Dave regularly. Also the restorative practice piece, which will be part of the new legislation and policy that we'll have to create for next year. The new staff success program, so making sure that we're pairing our new staff with a mentor, which we just did last week, making sure that we're doing 30, 60, 90 check-ins, which will be starting in the middle of October, which is next week. And making sure that we're continuously checking in. I did align this into special education as well. We have new staff in special education, so Linda and I are always checking in with the new staff and making sure that they have what they need, that they know the process. So, you know, that's something that's always been ongoing.
This ties into Eric. Eric, can you have something about
This
this
is separate.
team, or is it
This
different?
is separate.
It's
Separate,
the same goal, doing separate things.
different components. to
Mine's a
deliver the
state,
goal.
mine's a state required, new teacher training piece.
Mhm.
This is a district goal that's not state required. This is something that district's doing,
On top of it.
Yeah,
on top.
Oh, okay.
And not
Similar
every,
spirit.
if you get a new teacher from another district that's already gone through team, they don't get, like, I wouldn't work with them in my capacity as a state requirement. But what Dr. Miller's saying is a district, we still wanna make sure, hey, you're new to the district, we wanna make sure you still get support, even if it's outside of that state requirement.
And that's brand new. We wanna make sure that every staff, regardless of what role you have, is assigned a mentor during the first year to make sure you're
Okay.
successful.
But some
Yeah.
staff members don't. Like, the teams, the state requirements only certified teachers. So there could be new staff members that aren't certified. Actual teachers that have to go through team that this will support.
The same spirit, yours is legally bound.
Yeah.
Ours is just a good practice. We want.
Yes.
Okay.
Good way to say it.
And then the wellness, which is a really big part of the change in my position. So having a wellness committee. I know that the overall district goal is to have quarterly meetings, but we have set it up to have monthly meetings and planning events and doing some, employee building. We did some things at the convocation. People are really excited about that. So continuing to have that. One of the other things too, Howard and I are looking at some additional employee assistance programs to give a more robust plan to employees in case they're, going through various different needs. It won't just be for, most of the basic ones are just kind of 5 sessions. The more robust ones have it for different areas. They have kind of online connections, they have text, support groups and things like that. So we are looking at different carriers for that as well. And just making sure that everyone in the district continuously knows what we have to offer for them in terms of employee assistance, insurance, and other wellness activities and things. One of the things too, and I think it's actually one of the other goals, is we did create the employee benefits card. So we do have the website and it is being utilized frequently by staff.
Nice.
The next one is the support student internships, and really I'm just helping with the soliciting and making sure that we have the local businesses. We have a good database so far, so making sure that we continue to do the reach out and then filter that to the high school so they understand who's looking for jobs and how can we build internships from that. And the last goal is helping and supporting those environmental, just helping with the organization, making sure, the schools have what they need when we get to that point. So just the support piece of that. Any questions, anything I'm missing that you'd like to see in there?
So back to the special ed stuff, it's a tough area, it's always in demand, more kids are coming in and the needs are greater. 2 questions, what's the next thing, maybe too early, but what's the next resource or something we need in support of that, and or what do you think the biggest risk or opportunity is this year? Like, it's always fluid, right? And it's tough.
It is always fluid. I do see we are increasing. That's not been changing. So as I know the number looks lower now, but when I looked at it today, when we have more solid data, we are still at that kind of 305 and still have 13 or 14 referrals out. And we're also seeing an ever growing in the preschool. So it's something we definitely continue to keep an eye out, is the growing numbers of preschool students coming in. As well as, there's a lot of students moving from out of state. And I will say most of our move-ins, at least 25%, if not more, do move in with an IEP. So we are seeing growth in that way too. So making sure that we are providing what they need based on those IEPs and then making them align. And then some of the other things that filter into other areas, some of the behavior pieces and making sure that we're addressing those, but also looking at it through the special education lens, but also educating so that we can support them in the best way. So I do have some ideas for next year and thoughts that could really benefit. Linda's wonderful. She's been really helpful in everything that we're doing. She's in the buildings every day. She's probably at every single building every single day. And so trying to think of ways to balance that so that everybody's getting what they need throughout
Right.
the district.
So we might see something like last year was, Nicole, you were like, let's make sure we have enough BCBAs because of behavior. Like this year might be a different theme,
Might
whether
be.
it's a person or a program
I
or
mean, I have some
agency.
ideas. I mean, it's not budget season yet, but I have some ideas of supporting, right now, not looking administratively, but there isn't as much support in the elementary schools for kind of dealing and de-escalating
Right.
behaviors other than the principal. So something looking along those lines of, especially with the new legislation coming in, how can we support the elementary levels for the behaviors? Because not that we don't see behavior, it's different in middle school and high school, but we're seeing a lot more outward behaviors in the elementary setting.
We might just need maybe more of something too, on top of the training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions for Nicole?
I'll just.
I'm looking at Nicole.
Nicole, you have any? No questions.
For Megan.
I think it's not a question you can probably answer, but is the state or the country or government, anyone giving indications of why there's so much worse behavior and more special needs coming through at such a young age? Like a 25% increase, that seems like a lot. Are parents just not reading to their kids in the beginnings, or is the whole, I just don't understand COVID is now 3 years past. We can't really blame COVID anymore.
I think there's a lot of things. I mean, I do think COVID did and still plays an impact, because if we think about the students that either didn't have daycare or opportunities during that time, and a lot of those students, so I just know from personal, my niece was born in 2020, so she had some preschool, but she's still not even in kindergarten yet. So all of those students that were home during that time didn't have preschool or didn't have opportunities outside the home. A lot of parents were working and they might not have had that same interaction. So we can't rule, COVID out. I do think there's other environmental factors. I think there's a lot of things at play. I can't give you like a good solid answer, but I do still think we're seeing some effects of COVID and the lack of either instruction or ability to be around peers at that time too.
Give me an hour and a couple drinks, we'll go out, I'll tell you what I think. Being so close to all this stuff, not professionally, but just in groups of people and cohorts of families and.
Yeah.
Mike, go ahead.
Just a question, for the legislature, that's coming down. Has it been finalized? Are they planning to finalize it soon? Cause I know as a board, as we're prepping for budget season, cause it always seems like you're either in budget season or prepping for budget season. It's gonna be very important for us, cause we're gonna have to react to some of this stuff, cause it's gonna be unfunded mandates. That's gonna trickle down, so.
So where we are now, it passed that we have to implement as of the 25-26 school year. We'll be discussing it, I think, in policy this month or next month, because the state legislation does state we have to follow the specific policy created by CABE. So we have to kind of talk through that and approve that through policy. And then we have started the training in the restorative piece, just so that we have some people trained in district to be able to implement that piece of it. But that also then has to trickle to more staff. That's gonna have another impact. So yes, there's gonna be, I think, quite a few things that we're gonna have to look at from a budgetary standpoint to implement the new legislation.
Is restorative mostly like how to, like, different approaches dealing with behavioral issues?
Yes.
Is that the simplest way to put it?
Yeah, I just did the training last
Last
week.
week.
Yeah, I can't remember where we are, what day it is. And so, yeah, so I think the big thing is people always say it's kind of, not consequential, not, I don't like to use the word punishment, but that's not necessarily the truth. There's still time, there's where you can suspend, where you can work. But it's also trying to reinforce that you have to fix the situation. It's not like you just you get suspended and then you come back and everything's over with.
Mhm.
How are you going to repair the situation? And giving students that kind of language. So,
Okay.
Just, because I found the memo to be, enlightening, on detention, okay? I only had detention once, I think.
Yeah, right.
And,
One for stealing Joe's phone.
but they went right to suspension. Now, we had a process back in the fifties in the Stone Age, it was called. And, 3 demerits, down to the office, you talk with the principal. Give you some options, get the hell out or do something, and then maybe another warning, and then you went into detention. Okay, we never had detention on Saturday morning, which to me, my hat's off for the bold move. I don't know how the parents are gonna take it, because it's more punishment for the parent than the student. And you go into detention, and detention back in my day, I read your thing, you're gonna do your homework, you're gonna do your.
that's not mine.
Yeah,
There's one-
Well,
That's
you're
how
the
the,
assistant superintendent.
Yes, no, I know, I can talk to it a little bit, but I'm not the one,
It's,
it's the high school principal and that administration I know I can tell you how we determine whether there's a detention and who's running it, but I'm not the one
right,
doing.
it's a high school initiative and detention is not the start of the consequence. There's a behavioral matrix that we use that ramps up. So detention is one of the steps along the way. There are steps that take place before a student would even get to detention. There's after school detention before you even get to Saturday detention. There's a whole sequence of events that take place. I think the best person to answer your questions would be Ms. O'Brien, in 2 weeks when she presents the high school report.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other thing is that with some of the goals and stuff that have come out and everything, I learned a lot from Mr. Miller on, having some kind of guideline, which I think you stressed to us, and that was smart. Being able to analyze these goals. So many of these goals and stuff are words. They're emotions and things. How is the board, how do we know that you achieve these word goal type of things, that attitude improved, how do we measure that? We got a survey that showed some stuff. Where are the goals that we can put our hands on and say things are moving forward?
In
And
terms-
measurable.
Sure, in terms of what are you looking for measurable, so some of the things that I also do is based on the action items. I kind of go through those and look at that through a measurable lens as well, so if there's something specific you're looking for, I'm happy to, do a survey. I don't wanna over survey everybody, but do something for.
Survey, I think we've asked a couple of years ago, is that with all the data, iReady and SAT and PSA, all the stuff, those are your tools, okay? That from my standpoint, is that I need to know concrete that they really moved 10%. Here was a number last year, here's the real 10%, okay? Not 2% in SAT and 1% in iReady, and we're not gonna use iReady. That should be like an objective of the administration to have some hardcore things that we can look at and say, you agreed to this amount of performance. The teachers and staff agreed to that amount, and we can look at it and analyze it as novices.
Look here, Vic, she has achievable metrics. So the first one, 100% of IEPs will be developed beginning January of 2025. We're gonna know at the end of that, if you made 100% or if it's 85% or what.
That's 300 IEPs, right?
Yes.
And
And she's working off the action items, but there's a whole column on achievable metrics.
okay, I'm just saying that every one of these has that. I'm looking for some basic core things that you can judge, that things, the CEO looks at the bottom line. He doesn't look at Harry Schwartz is getting 18,000 chips off his machine, that type of thing. He's looking at will this door stay on the bone 7:30? So what's happening? So I think, and I could be speaking on, I think we need some kind of core thing that we look at, that everybody agrees this is the benchmarks, not, I won't live long enough to read all those individual things. But anyway, that's just my view. I hope you're. Well, I'm in the 90s, so I got 10 years.
Anybody else have anything for Megan? No? Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Next item is the report of the superintendent.
So good evening. A few updates for you tonight. First of all, the high school pool pack, which is something they've been waiting for a little while on. Obviously, thanks to the town for funding in the first place. The delivery of the pool pack is gonna be in the vendor's hands within the next 2 weeks. Not really in their hands, but in the property within the next 2 weeks. And they will have a crane on site. They're planning to begin the work on November 1st. They're expecting it to be a 2-week install. There'll be on the roof outside of the pool area, and inside the pool area during that 2 weeks, the pool will not be usable. Because the system will be shut down. That will take place after the final girls' home meet, which is October 17th. The impact will be that during practices, the girls will still be in the state tournament window. And we've made arrangements for the students to practice at the Seymour pool during that time period. It will be up and running before the start of the boys' season. And we would not be having a home in the pool that's not going to be impacted. The impact will be the practice that the girls will have during that window. That will include having the area outside of the high school, right outside the clear it out so that a crane can actually come on site. They'll take the old one down, get it out, put the new one up. There's a lift. There's kind of a surface that needs to be built around the new pool pack on the roof, and it gets installed. And we're right around the time when we were expecting to be done. So pretty much it's on schedule. As far as being on schedule, we're actually ahead of schedule with the HVAC project for this building. They're in the final stages of turning everything on and getting everything certified. There's a few cosmetic things that need to be done. Ceiling tiles need to be patched up a little bit, some carpet tiles and so forth. But for the most part, this building is in operation, all the classrooms and the offices on the side of the building. I do want to compliment the vendor that was selected, Airtemp. They have been professional, they've been courteous, respectful, clean, organized. They communicate very effectively with the administrators and custodians of this building and the facilities. The selection of Airtemp from the beginning yielded a project that was efficient, on time, and high quality. So a lot of kudos to the selection process and for the vendor themselves and for selecting good staff members to do the work. I think we got a really good project through all that. In terms of transportation, we did get another update from the town a week ago. There is only one person that All-Star uses to map the routes. That person was out last week and is out this week and will be back on the 15th. So any of the roads that opened up last week and this week will be rerouted by All-Star beginning on Tuesday. And they're still working on the for-school transportation for the out-of-district students, where we requested that they add another driver. Adding another driver will solve the problem. We're waiting for a response from them because that's what we needed. We needed another driver for the morning runs in order to move the start time later than it currently is. Parents that have been contacting us that saying that the roads are open, our response to them is we're waiting for All-Star to now alter the route starting the 15th, which is when they need to start doing that work. I am excited to announce that we have 2 students from the high school that were selected by the administration that will be our student representatives to the Board of Education. Our hope is that one or both of them will be here for the next meeting so that Heather, when she makes her high school report, is able to introduce them. I did give them an official letter thanking them and congratulating them for being selected from the high school administration. One of them was going to be here tonight, but we decided it would be better to have them here and have Heather introduce them at the meeting itself in 2 weeks. And a reminder, I did put in social media earlier today Friday is a planned early release day for professional learning. In fact, Eric has already sent out information to the admin team, the teachers, and all staff will be engaged in professional learning, including secretaries, paraprofessionals, teachers, highly organized. So thank you for putting that all together. And on Monday is an official holiday, that is on the calendar as well. So the schools will all be closed. Schools and offices will be closed on Monday next week.
Question on full pack, are we okay with Park and Rec, their swim program? Have we gone through?
I know that Mike had included, Karen, I don't think she made it to the meeting, but he's been in communication with her, and I will verify that again.
Just wanna make sure they're
Yeah.
aware.
How is it gonna affect drop off and pick up and all that good
The
stuff?
day that they bring the crane in, there might be some impact there, but once they get it off, down, and the new one up, the crane should only be on site for a day or two. At that point, it shouldn't be an issue. But while the crane's there actually lifting, and nothing can be around that area.
Yeah.
Heather and Paul, who's the lead at the high school, were involved in the collaborative meeting that took place today about the project.
Anybody else? Any questions? Audience of citizens?
Maggie, can you tell me how many 504s there are in the district on top of the IEPs? I'm just curious because I know that's another whole load of work. There's still students we're having to service.
Yes, if you give me 10 minutes, I could probably pull a rough number.
Can you give that to her after?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. My report, we have nurses negotiation. That we need to set a committee for. So if there's anybody that would like to be on the committee for the new nurses union, please let me know. They want to meet sometime the end of October. So the four nurses
Yes.
created a union. This is the first contract that we'll be negotiating with them. So we need to get board members that want to be on the committee.
Jeff, is it typically at night, the afternoon, when do you do it?
Usually,
Typically, we do it, like when school's in session, we typically do it sometime between 5 and 6 o'clock start time, and it's in the evening. During the summer, we can do it a little bit earlier, but we can't while they're actually in school.
Is there a sense if it's gonna be a one day?
This is not a one-day thing. The
No.
fact that there's not an existing association, there's not an existing contract, means we're starting from scratch. And everything is built from ground up, so this is gonna be a very tough one, a long one, and is not gonna be done in one evening.
Good to know.
How does that work? Do they come with something proposed, or we take a template boilerplate and try to offer this like boilerplate thing?
I believe that they're gonna come forward with initial proposals, and then we work from there.
What vocal are they using?
I have to pull it up, it's not asked me.
That sounds like a really good way for me to learn this, so
Yep, just everybody let me know who wants to do it afterward. The nurses. And that's all I have. Subcommittees, facilities, Mike?
So nothing new since the last time we met as a board. Next facility subcommittee will be on the 22nd of October, at least at this point. We typically meet an hour before the board meeting. So we should be able to handle that. So
Mike, do you mind if I add something?
go for it.
So I've been approached by several people about bathrooms for football games and then popcorn. And Mike and I have spoken about it, and we're gonna try and kickstart the whole bathrooms committee thing. So Mike has been in touch with Joe, and I will be speaking with George to see if we can get these things
Perfect.
kicked off again. I have some really bad pictures,
Bathrooms.
bathroom pictures, yes, for the general public.
The state of the porta
So-
potties.
So part of the problem, honestly, is after a Friday night game, those porta johns do not get cleaned for the Pop Warner games on Sunday. So maybe, sorry. I don't know if we can figure out during the facilities meeting, if we can get them cleaned in between somehow.
It's either getting the company out there or assigning it to the Saturday custodian to go out there on Saturday to do.
God help that custodian.
I don't think our custodian wants to go near.
You
They
won't
don't have
have
the
a custodian
equipment
anymore.
It's one of the, it's one of the two.
You need a truck.
The truck.
They'd have to have the truck
No,
to
but
do the
they're-
pump and the,
They might not be able to pump it, but they might be doing some general like cleaning on it.
Pumping is the process.
Course of a week of people down the hall.
right now, from my understanding, it's Mondays, and Fridays.
We
Is the
might have
current
to
schedule.
change the schedule.
And we have to see what home games are left for Pop Warner, because they just had 4 in a row, or at least 3 in a row. So their season for home games, they only have 4 per year. So it could be a moot point for them, but
We have to solve for next year.
with Salt for next year and high school football is still an issue, graduation's an issue, soccer's an issue. Anyone who's using that field, it's an issue and it's not going away. There are,
There's
There-
also several people within the community that are willing to donate time as well as resources.
Yeah.
So if we can get that all pulled back together,
That'd be great.
Yeah.
it would be nice.
Yeah.
So
Can I just ask, why did it stall? Because everyone was so gung ho for a long time and then it just fizzled.
I think that's a conversation for,
Another day.
yeah. You and I can have a conversation.
Anything else on facilities?
Oh, Mike. Sorry.
no, I appreciate that.
Are they working?
That's our time.
Okay. It's like, oh no, it's breaking.
The building's haunted.
Curriculum. So we had our curriculum meeting on September 30th. We had, Jim came and we talked about a couple of things with technology. We're gonna work on updating the website, try and take some of the COVID stuff off the website, and work on updating that. We were thrilled to look at the new, free service for the curriculum that you guys have been working on to do. Yep, so it's gonna be, our curriculum is actually gonna be online where parents can go in, they can look at it. Assessments won't be available, of course, but they can at least get in and look at it. We talked about, the work that the literacy coordinator's been doing, and Eric gave us a copy, I think I bought it, of her schedule. The amount of work that she's doing and getting done is commendable, and I think that was a great, way we went last year, with getting a literacy person. We're going to, all right, this is, don't have anybody laugh, but 10 years ago, the town of Oxford received supposedly a $50,000 agricultural grant that, is coming up on being the 10-year mark. And somehow there's a thought process that if we do not document how we've used this grant, which nobody seems to know where the money, what went to, if it went to their aid, that we have to send the money back. So Eric's working on that with Alicia.
Yeah, I called her, and then this week I had to start up the math grant thing, so I'll be meeting with her next week or so.
Yeah.
With that being said, ever since the students moved back to this building as an elementary school during the spring and up to and past Earth Day, the students have been out in the garden, they have planted, they have grown stuff, they have done the work out there. And there is a gardening club officially in place now, so we can clearly document that the students in this school have been out in the garden using the facilities out there. So I think there clearly is evidence that we can point to
Yeah.
that shows we have a clear line of work the students and staff are doing connected to gardening,
We also have to find out what the parameters of the grant were, so,
if we need to find a grant.
right.
Well, what happened with the greenhouse that was purchased and is just still sitting out there? Is anything?
I think it was like originally built for like the stiff corrugated walls. Then the new frame was for the plastic tarps. They've been going back and forth. So I think they're making it a little smaller because it was massive, the greenhouse that was out there. So they should have that up and set, according to Alicia, in the near future.
So that was originally purchased for the agricultural committee for the town through the community support grant,
Right.
but, then it just kind of didn't go anywhere with that committee. That committee kind of dissolved. Now they're back up in the townwide. So
It just didn't.
it didn't grow. I gave you copies of what we got from Eric for the curriculum. And then we talked about the new district evaluation update. I think that was pretty much, yeah, other than the update from the assessment stuff. So that was it for curriculum. Policy, Nicole?
All right, we're scheduled to meet next week virtually 5:45 on Thursday. You guys are all welcome to pop in if you'd like. We have three policies today that are up for a second read. The first two, prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment. The language is basically the same for students and personnel, and it involves a definition change, and that's why we have to reapprove the policy. Does anybody have any questions on that? All right, so I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment policy as it applies to students as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the prohibition of sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment as applies to personnel as written.
Second.
You win.
You can have it on.
I already typed my names.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
And then the last one is a policy on the reports of suspected abuse or neglect of children or reports of sexual assault of students by school employees. And again, that involves a definition change, and that's why we have to reapprove it.
Are you gonna make the motion?
Does anybody have any questions or anything? They're good?
Just out of curiosity, what was the definition change?
It was to reflect new definitions for sexual contact and sexual assault in the 4th degree.
Good, thank you.
No
I
problem.
was just curious.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the new policy, reports of suspected abuse or neglect of children, reports of sexual assault of students by school employees as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second that one.
All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Finance, Steve?
We're meeting next Thursday to review the September financials and budget position as well as a couple other items.
Next Thursday, right?
Yeah.
12-1, right? 12-1. Okay.
Liaison?
Two policy meetings that day.
What?
Two policy meetings, two committee meetings that day.
Okay.
Liaison reports. We haven't had another PTO meeting since the last board meeting, so I have no update. Sue?
I was not at the booster club meeting, but I know, so the concession stand is up and running for the fall season for football. We're starting to get together the flyers and the forms for the Festival of Trees, that's right around the corner. Bingo will be in the 23rd of October, so people are signing up for that. And then I guess we brought in that speaker that was well received.
I got some good positive feedback from parents,
Great, thanks for
that
that.
both at the high school and the middle school.
Did you chase out the ice cream truck?
I never found out where the ice cream truck came from.
When for football?
At the football game, ice cream truck showed up out of nowhere.
Oh, I did see that.
Worst thing to happen.
Kind of online.
It eats into their money's worth.
They were, like,
Did
they were
they
taking
leave?
into our, huh?
Did they leave or they stayed?
No, they stayed there. I mean, no one knew until the end of the game. And then when nobody knew they were supposed to be there, the AD didn't know anything, Dr. Miller said he didn't know anything, Booch Club didn't know anything. They just showed up. So I don't know if they had a permit. I think we need a permit, so,
Yeah.
but,
Just saw the game in the paper.
So they'll look kicked
but
out.
they didn't, that was
No
the
loss,
first game.
right?
I think that's next game.
Okay, you gotta leave them.
Interesting.
Well, you could get a fine, and you could, I mean, there are things.
Yeah.
So the only other liaison group that we used to have was Oasis, but from what I understand, Oasis is not operational at this point. So,
I did speak to somebody today.
oh, you did, okay.
And they're looking for people to help organize and be part of Oasis now.
But it's a town committee.
It's a
so-
town-wide thing, but they are looking to see if there's any school-based staff or Board of Education members that are interested in participating in it.
What's Oasis?
It's a drug and alcohol program, mostly awareness, and they bring in speakers. They've done that a couple of times. So I was
That's
gonna,
Speakers both at school level and at the town level.
Yeah. so I was gonna touch base with Mr. Temple and find out where the town stands on that, whether or not they wanna continue it or what the reason. I think it was just because Vinny moved, and I think it kind of fell apart when Vinny moved, but I just wanna make sure that we're doing something that,
The person told me that she's right now filling out the paperwork for the grant. It would need to be signed by the school and by the town in
Okay.
order to move forward.
that's all I have. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Like,
Opposed, abstaining?